The year 1947 marked the end of British colonial rule in India. After nearly 2 centuries of British dominance, the subcontinent was finally on the brink of self-governance. However, this transition was far from smooth and came with its own set of challenges and upheavals. It also marked the birth of 2 new nations, India and Pakistan. The subcontinent was divided along religious lines, with India becoming a predominantly Hindu nation and Pakistan a Muslim-majority country. This division was intended to address the religious and cultural differences, but instead led to unforeseen consequences. This historic event, known as the partition, was marred by violence and displacement. The hurried and poorly planned division led to chaos, with communal riots breaking out across the newly formed borders. Families were torn apart and entire communities were uprooted overnight. Millions of Hindus, Muslims and Sikhs found themselves on the wrong side of the newly drawn borders. They were forced to leave their homes and to undertake perilous journeys to what they hoped would be safer territories. The trains and roads were filled with refugees, each carrying stories of loss and hope. The partition left a deep scar on the Indian subcontinent, sowing the seeds of mistrust and conflict. The emotional and psychological impact of this event was profound, affecting generations to come. The memories of violence and displacement lingered, creating a legacy of bitterness and suspicion. The most contentious issue was the fate of the princely state of Kashmir. This region, with its strategic location and mixed population, became a flashpoint for conflict. The Maharaja of Kashmir faced immense pressure from both India and Pakistan, each vying for control over the territory. Both India and Pakistan claimed this strategically important region. The geopolitical significance of Kashmir made it a valuable asset, and neither nation was willing to compromise. This tug-of-war over Kashmir set the stage for prolonged conflict. This dispute led to the First Kashmir War in 1947. The newly independent nations found themselves embroiled in a military conflict, with both sides suffering casualties. The war further deepened the animosity between India and Pakistan. The war ended with a ceasefire line that divided Kashmir. This line, known as the Line of Control, became a de facto border, splitting families and communities. However, the ceasefire did little to resolve the underlying issues, leaving the region in a state of perpetual tension. However, it did not resolve the underlying issues. The ceasefire was merely a temporary solution, and the core disputes remained unaddressed. The people of Kashmir continued to live under the shadow of conflict, with their aspirations for peace and stability unfulfilled. The unresolved Kashmir conflict cast a long shadow over India-Pakistan relations. The 2 nations, born out of the same subcontinent, found themselves locked in a cycle of hostility and mistrust. Diplomatic efforts to resolve the issue have often been thwarted by deep-seated animosities. The legacy of partition continues to haunt both nations. The historical trauma of 1947 is etched into the collective memory of the people. It influences political decisions, social dynamics, and even cultural expressions in both India and Pakistan. The trauma of displacement, the loss of lives, and the division of communities continue to shape the political discourse. The stories of those who lived through the partition are passed down through generations, serving as a poignant reminder of the human cost of political decisions. The unresolved issues from 1947 continue to fuel tensions. The border disputes, the refugee crises, and the communal divisions are all legacies of that fateful year. These issues have become deeply entrenched, making resolution a complex and challenging task. They serve as a constant reminder of the fragility of peace in the region. The spectre of partition looms large over South Asia, influencing contemporary politics and international relations. The quest for lasting peace and reconciliation remains an ongoing struggle for both India and Pakistan. The troubled relationship between India and Pakistan has been punctuated by several major conflicts. These 2 neighbouring countries, born out of the partition of British India in 1947, have had a tumultuous history marked by wars, skirmishes, and ongoing disputes. The roots of their rivalry can be traced back to the very moment of their creation, when the subcontinent was divided along religious lines, leading to massive migrations and communal violence. Following the First Kashmir War in 1947, a second war erupted in 1965. The Kashmir conflict, which began almost immediately after independence, set the stage for decades of hostility. The princely state of Jammu and Kashmir, with its strategic location and mixed population, became the flashpoint for the first war between the 2 nations. This war was sparked by a dispute over the Rann of Kutch, a salt marsh bordering both countries. The barren and inhospitable terrain of the Rann of Kutch became the unlikely battleground for a series of skirmishes that escalated into a full-scale war. The conflict over this seemingly insignificant piece of land highlighted the deep-seated animosities and the willingness of both sides to engage in military confrontation. The 1965 war ended in a stalemate, with both sides claiming victory. Despite the lack of a decisive outcome, the war had significant consequences. It led to a renewed sense of nationalism and military preparedness in both countries, further entrenching the adversarial relationship. However, it further deepened the mistrust. The ceasefire, brokered by international intervention, did little to resolve the underlying issues, and the animosity continued to simmer beneath the surface. In 1971, India and Pakistan were once again at war. This conflict was different from the previous ones, as it was not just about territorial disputes, but also about the aspirations of the people of East Pakistan, who sought independence from West Pakistan. This time, the conflict was centered on the issue of Bangladesh's independence. The struggle for autonomy in East Pakistan, fueled by political and economic grievances, led to widespread unrest and eventually a brutal crackdown by the Pakistani military. India supported the Bengali nationalist movement in East Pakistan. The Indian government, under Prime Minister Indira Gandhi, provided military and logistical support to the Mukti Bahini, the Bengali guerrilla resistance movement. This escalated into a full-blown war. The conflict saw intense fighting on both the eastern and western fronts, with significant casualties and destruction. The war ended with the defeat of Pakistan and the creation of Bangladesh. The 1971 war was a turning point in South Asian history, leading to the birth of a new nation and a significant shift in the regional power dynamics. The Kargil conflict in 1999 marked another low point in India-Pakistan relations. This high-altitude war, fought in the rugged mountains of Kargil, was characterized by its challenging terrain and harsh weather conditions. This conflict was sparked by an incursion of Pakistani troops into Indian-administered Kashmir. The surprise infiltration by Pakistani soldiers and militants aimed to cut off strategic supply routes and create a new front in the ongoing Kashmir dispute. The Kargil conflict, though limited in scope, brought the two nuclear-armed neighbors to the brink of war. The international community watched with bated breath as the situation threatened to escalate into a nuclear confrontation. Beyond these major wars, numerous skirmishes and border incidents have flared up over the years. The line of control, the de facto border in Kashmir, remains a flashpoint for frequent clashes and ceasefire violations. These incidents, often triggered by ceasefire violations or militant attacks, serve as a stark reminder of the volatile situation. The ongoing insurgency in Kashmir and the presence of militant groups add another layer of complexity to the already fraught relationship. The long history of conflict has created a deep sense of mistrust and animosity. Decades of hostility have left scars that are not easily healed, and the heavily militarized border stands as a testament to the enduring tensions. This makes finding a lasting solution to the complex issues even more challenging. Despite occasional peace talks and diplomatic efforts, the path to reconciliation remains fraught with obstacles, and the shadow of past conflicts continues to loom large over the future of India-Pakistan relations. Tensions between India and Pakistan escalated dramatically in April 2025. A horrific attack in the town of Pahalgam, located in Indian-administered Kashmir, shattered the uneasy peace. Gunmen opened fire on a group of Hindu pilgrims, killing 26 people. The attack sent shockwaves through India and sparked outrage across the country. India was quick to blame Pakistan for the attack, alleging that it was orchestrated by terrorists operating from Pakistani soil. India accused Pakistan of providing safe havens and support to these groups, a charge Pakistan vehemently denies. In response to the attack, India took a series of diplomatic and economic measures. India sealed the Wagah-Atari border crossing, a key transit point for people and goods. India also suspended its participation in the Indus Water Treaty, a crucial agreement governing the sharing of water resources. These actions underscored the severity of the situation and signaled India's resolve to punish those responsible. Section 4: Economic ripples, trade disruptions, and their consequences. The attack in Pahalgam and the subsequent diplomatic fallout have had significant economic ramifications for both India and Pakistan. India's decision to revoke Pakistan's most favored nation status and impose higher tariffs dealt a blow to bilateral trade. Trade between the two countries, already limited, plummeted further. The suspension of trade has had a particularly severe impact on Pakistan's pharmaceutical sector. Pakistan relies heavily on India for essential medicines and raw materials. The disruption in supply chains has led to shortages and price hikes, affecting the most vulnerable sections of society. The closure of the Wagah-Atari border has also disrupted informal trade networks. These networks, though operating outside official channels, play a vital role in the region's economy. The suspension of cross-border movement has led to job losses and economic hardship for those reliant on these informal trade routes. Section 5: The world reacts, international response and concerns. The international community reacted to the Pahalgam attack with a mixture of condemnation and concern. The attack, which resulted in significant loss of life, drew swift responses from various global leaders and organizations. Many countries issued statements condemning the violence and expressing their solidarity with the victims and their families. World leaders expressed their condolences to the families of the victims and called for restraint from both India and Pakistan. Vigils were held in several countries, symbolizing global mourning and a collective call for peace. Diplomatic messages poured in, urging both nations to avoid further escalation. The United States, a key ally of India, offered its support in bringing the perpetrators to justice. American officials emphasized the importance of cooperation in counter-terrorism efforts and pledged to assist in any way possible. This support was echoed by other allies who also offered their resources and expertise. However, there were also calls for dialogue and de-escalation. Many international leaders stressed the need for diplomatic solutions and encouraged both India and Pakistan to engage in talks. The emphasis was on finding a peaceful resolution to prevent further loss of life and instability in the region. Many countries recognized the dangers of a military confrontation between two nuclear-armed neighbors. The potential for such a conflict to escalate into a nuclear exchange was a source of grave concern. Protests and peace rallies were held worldwide, with people urging their governments to take a stand for peace. The United Nations urged both sides to exercise restraint and engage in meaningful dialogue to resolve their differences peacefully. The Secretary-General highlighted the importance of international mediation and offered the UN's assistance in facilitating talks. The call for peace was echoed by various UN member states. The international community's response highlighted the global significance of the India-Pakistan conflict. The situation was closely monitored by governments and media around the world, reflecting the interconnected nature of global security. Analysts discussed the broader implications for regional and international stability. The potential for a wider conflagration, particularly given the nuclear dimension, is a source of deep anxiety for the world. The spectre of nuclear war loomed large, prompting urgent calls for de-escalation. Diplomatic channels were abuzz with efforts to prevent a catastrophic outcome. The international community has a crucial role to play in preventing further escalation and fostering a climate of peace and stability in the region. Through coordinated efforts, diplomatic engagement and support for peace initiatives, the world can help steer India and Pakistan towards a path of reconciliation and lasting peace.